As government officials continue to question the legalities and morality of loot boxes and the way they so closely resemble gambling and yet are completely unregulated, the ESRB, organizations that kind of regulate video games, and game companies themselves, the publishers like EA, are trying to find any means to divert any sort of accountability in order to continue to rake in money through morally questionable business practices such as gambling and video games. FIFA is among the titles that's most notorious for its pay-to-win loot box practices. And EA has now introduced a new tool as their advertising that they hope will be enough to continue to divert attention and scrutiny, but it is in my opinion that it is far from enough. So in the latest patch for FIFA 21, scrolling down, you'll find a section that reads as follows: added new menu titles for the upcoming FIFA Playtime tool, which will be available at a later date. What is FIFA Playtime? Well, it says right here, FIFA Playtime is a new suite of tools that enable players to have more control and visibility over how they play and can be accessed through the main menu, FIFA Ultimate Team, and Volta Football. So it is a new addition that's being added to the game and its menus that will allow players to keep track of playtime and spending and put limitations when it comes to how much players can play or spend. And a user on the official FIFA subreddit actually posted a screenshot of what that looks like. So clicking on the image will take us to this. So you can see right here, playtime, understand and take control of your engagement in FIFA by setting weekly limits. Weekly limits roll over on Sunday night at midnight GMT. So it shows you time spent, match limits, pack limits, and FIFA points purchase limits. Additional details are provided by news outlet Eurogamer, who published their own article on the matter. They talk about how the feature is live on PC today, and on consoles it'll be live on Tuesday, November 17th. They talk about how this is a tool for parents and players to help them control various aspects of the game, including time spent playing, spending, social communication, and access to games by rating. And then this next paragraph reiterates how the in-game tool can tell you how much you've spent in terms of FIFA points, but not in terms of real-world money, which is an important distinguisher. FIFA points offer a degree of separation from real-world money, and that's in part why FIFA can get away with the loot boxes and say it's not gambling, because technically players are buying the points and then spending the points to spin the slot machines rather than directly spending the money on the loot boxes, the slot machines. And not to mention that when people look at FIFA points, that's just not quite as direct as looking at how many dollars you've actually spent. Seeing a statistic that says you've spent $1,000 has a greater impact than seeing a stat that says you've bought 10,000 FIFA points. And then it's described once again, you can choose the amount of FIFA points you can buy and the number of FIFA Ultimate Team packs you can open with FIFA Ultimate Team coins or purchase with FIFA points. The thing is, I don't understand how this is any different or more useful than the parental tools that are in place for the consoles that are out right now. The fact of the matter is that as long as FIFA continues to be advertised as a family-friendly game, as E for Everyone, PEGI 3, and isn't regulated as gambling and advertised as a game featuring gambling, parents won't know to be alert about, their kids spending money on FIFA in a console that may already have the parents' bank account and credit card information attached, because the game doesn't warn players that you can engage in this vicious cycle of gambling and spending. Parents won't know that they even have to set these limitations in the first place. And for adults who may fall into loot box addiction, they're not going to set self-imposed limits. They're not going to touch the playtime functionality. They're just going to keep spinning the slot machine of loot boxes until they get the card that they want, and they'll end up spending hundreds if not thousands of dollars and still not get the rarest player card. And this is of course by design. And that's another factor, the probability of winning. Casinos are regulated in such a way that players do have a certain chance to win in certain gambling games, whereas in video video games, game companies can flip switches and change numbers and odds willy-nilly however they want. And in fact, when it comes to FIFA, EA has disclosed the odds, thinking that, well, that'll be enough to stave off any legal liabilities, to stave off any backlash or any scrutiny. And they revealed that to get some of the top most desired rewards, the probability of that is less than 1%, which isn't even all that specific. Are we talking about 0.9%, 0.1%, 0.01%, 0.001%? It could be 0.00000000001%. And we wouldn't know because EA refuses to disclose the exact probabilities of the rarest items. And the fact that the most desired rewards have a less than 1% chance of yielding when players gamble over and over again, which has led to players spending $500 trying to get Lionel Messi or whatever and still not get Lionel Messi, when you've got odds like that's just a system that's rigged against players. Casinos come nowhere close to a, less than 1% chance to win a game because casinos are regulated properly so that there is some semblance of fairness to the player. It's important to start labeling loot boxes as gambling so that people are fully aware of what the system is before any of this stuff that they are implementing has any tangible effect. Now, going back to the topic of the game tracking how many points you've bought rather than how much money you've spent, apparently the reason EA cannot disclose the values in terms of real-world money is because FIFA Points bought are transacted by the platform provider Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, and purchase details other than confirmation of the number of FIFA Points purchased are not shared with EA. Now, I don't know how much of this is true, but even if EA's reasoning is for real, it doesn't change the fact that players cannot actually see the full totality of expenditures in real-world dollar value, which is what's most important, because FIFA points don't directly translate to real-world dollars because of the different tiers of packs. The higher you go, the more free FIFA points you get, and just seeing points versus dollars, again, it's just different. It's not as direct. It's just harder to get a full picture for how much you're spending daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, when looking at numbers in terms of FIFA points and not dollars. It just diminishes the efficacy of this feature. The most important thing to note about all this is that at the end of the day, it's a distraction from the real issue with FIFA Ultimate Team, the fact that there's gambling at all. It's a soccer game. Why is there gambling in the first place? Just the removal of the ability to pay for the chance of obtaining rewards and balancing the game properly so that through gameplay, players are rewarded steadily. That's the true solution. That's how you really turn things around and make FIFA a proper soccer game rather than a casino disguised as a soccer game. The last thing EA wants is to remove the ability for players to gamble in their sports games because that is just such a lucrative endeavor for them. It's made them so much money, and so they'll introduce stuff like this as a diversion or as a means to gain some legal high ground in the eyes of the current law. A lot of people are seeing this move as EA just trying to stave off legal scrutiny rather than them actually making a genuine effort to try to make FIFA and EA Sports titles and any of their games with gambling healthier to play. And it's especially telling that, as this commenter pointed out, gambling sites have this too. The fact that this feature is needed at all says everything about loot boxes. I don't understand how they can say that loot boxes are a surprise mechanic, safe for kids, quite fun, quite ethical, and in the same breath say that you should probably enable parental controls. Why do parental controls need to be enabled in a kids-friendly game? There's just a contradiction there. And why is a tracker like this and a tool that allows you to limit spending and playtime even necessary in a game that is just 100% safe, that won't negatively affect people psychologically, that won't cause addiction? Why are these tools needed at all? They keep saying games like FIFA pose no danger, and yet continue to highlight tools that will prevent dangerous things from happening. And then another commenter highlighted a particular statement from the patch notes that introduced FIFA Playtime that reads, "Play should always be fun, so we're amping up the information and tools to help you play on your terms." Scrolling down to the commenter, they spotlighted this quote and then said they're using as much gambling language as possible without actually saying the word gambling. Incredible. And then somebody else noted that this reminds them of the "when the fun stops, stop" quote that the gambling industry introduced to try to get people from getting addicted to gambling or something. But it was reported back in 2019 that gambling industry's "when the fun stops" slogan doesn't even work. The commenter added, "What would really make the game more fun is if you took out the need to spend anything after the initial purchase altogether. If parents weren't already on top of what their kids are spending, why would they suddenly change?" Indeed, this speaks to the point that I made before, that this is about as useful as parental tools are currently, when parents don't even know that they have to be watchful of titles like FIFA, which are advertised as kids-friendly. Apologies for being cynical, but this is purely a feature that they anticipate referring to in court to show how nothing is EA's fault. Fuck them. Yeah, this feels like a legal protection move, not a let's actually do something positive for our community and our customers move. And this other commenter shares a similar sentiment. Indeed, this is a "please don't regulate us" feature aimed entirely at governments, not one that's intended to help users at all. Regulating this sort of gaming on an equal basis with other forms of gambling really can't come soon enough. I couldn't agree more. And it's not just in the one Eurogamer article, even going to the FIFA subreddit where the most loyal and ardent FIFA players are, you've got people saying stuff like, "This will be used in court against the people wanting to ban microtransactions." A lot of people just find this implementation suspect because the tool ultimately feels useless, and because it comes at a time when FIFA and EA are facing 3 class action lawsuits, and a bunch of governments from around the world, especially in Europe and the UK, are coming down hard on EA and grilling them and considering updating the law to reflect loot boxes and their adverse effect and their resemblance to gambling. EA knows exactly what they need to do to finally end this problem. Remove the ability to gamble, to pay money for the chance of earning a reward. That is ultimately the best, the ultimate solution. But EA will not consider pursuing that unless they're forced to by government bodies, because that would affect their financial bottom line, because what they care about most of all is money, not the safety of customers or the integrity, the artistic integrity of their games. It's all about money, keeping investors happy, unlimited company growth, you name it. And they're going to fight to their last breath to ensure loot boxes aren't regulated while introducing useless tools that make them seem like they're being proactive and are actually concerned about the customers. So with all said and done, if EA was expecting applause because of the implementation of this tool, if they were expecting that this would be enough to kill all the backlash and all the scrutiny, they couldn't be more wrong. People are more suspicious than ever, if you ask me, for those who've been keeping track of EA shenanigans. And same with me. I don't trust that this was done with good intentions one bit. I trust that this was done as more of legal protection and as a means to help maintain the current status quo of gambling in video games are not gambling. That's just one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on this new tool that EA is adding to FIFA and potentially other EA Sports titles. Do you think it will help, or are you where I am right now, which is it's kind of pointless and more of a diversion? Drop a comment, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.